Today we are going to discuss about treatment. This is the fourth part of the topic, the human body in health and disease. And today we will discuss the principles of Ayurvedic treatment. Treatment is decided, implemented, every patient into the disease. And at the end of the webinar, we will also review 3 case studies which demonstrate efficacy of treatment. So the topic here is how a treatment based on understanding VIKRI or pathology. So if you look at VIKRI is the term used in Ayurveda pathology or the state of disease. So here we are going to discuss how we assess pathology, assess disease, and then how a treatment is planned. There are 3 steps to understanding pathology. One is Roga Pariksha. You study about the disease, what is wrong in the human body, and the second, assessing the patient. This is called Rogi Pariksha. So the disease separately, and then the Avastha, the stages of evolution of a disease. Disease is not considered to be something. Disease is continuously in a state of and so after assessing the disease and the patient, the focus now is on understanding how the disease evolves, how it responds to treatments, and what outcomes are happening. So this or the understanding the status of evolution of the disease is very important to understand whether your treatment is working, whether the disease is being influenced by the treatment. So as I advised, in Ayurveda, assessing pathology means 3 things: examining, investigating about the and assessing the patient, and third, understanding the dynamics of the disease process. So this is a very important point that I'm going to make now, is the treatment is directed just for the disease or the patient. In Ayurveda, treatment is based on the stages of the disease. So the disease fix the treatment based on the dynamics of the disease, which is determined by the interaction of the patient, the disease, and the medicines. So in Ayurveda, the stage is more important. The stage of the disease keeps varying. So the treatment in Ayurveda is specific to each disease. So if 2 people were to the same illness, then they would be treated specifically for the evolution of present. So we will look at these elements. The first step in Ayurveda, Roga Pariksha, understanding the disease state. So here we look at the mechanism of the disease. So I want to discuss some fundamental concepts in Ayurveda as to how disease actually manifests. So we all know that disease in Ayurveda means the imbalance of the three. I hope this definition is clear to all. The disease in Ayurveda is understood as imbalance in doshas. In other words, the disease process is initiated only when the doshas go out of balance. So the critical point of a disease is the imbalance of the doshas. So what keeps the doshas stable? So if your doshas are strong, if you are dhatu strong, then the doshas are also strong. So doshas will not actually get influenced by external factors. So when the dhatus are weak, that means the body has less strength, then the doshas become easily disturbed. So the prevention of a disease actually would be to increase the strength of the dhatus. If you keep the dhatu strong, then the chances of doshas getting influenced by external etiological factors is very, very less. So this is the sequence that we do. There are always external factors stressing the body. But all of them cause disease. If there is an external factor working on the body, if the are strong enough to withstand that external stress, no chance of a doshic imbalance. If the extractors are so strong and so that they can strength of the dhatu, then they disturb the doshas initiate disease. So essentially, the outcome of it depends on the strength factor and the strength of the dhatu. So what control, not much, we can of course avoid our life by healthy lifestyle and adopting a healthy diet, but still we will avoid all external factors. So another to prevent that is to keep the dhatu. We have to do these 2-3 things: lifestyle, so first have a strong mind. That's the first step. And then healthy lifestyle, diet, and then we should also try our best to avoid exposure to agents. There is still a chance strong external agents disease, and we have to maintain the strength of the dhatus. So the tips that make to prevent disease from us. So this is the sequence that when dhatus are and when the external factors in the body get disturbed. And doshas get disturbed. And when Agni is weak, then Ama is formed. And Ama is the basis of disease. So this is the development of pathology according to Veda. First, Dhatu is weak due to bad lifestyle and not taking rasayanas. Then external factors provoke the dosha. And dosha is disturbed. Then when doshas are disturbed, Agni is disturbed. And when Agni is disturbed, then Ama is formed. So this is the sequence, and Ama is the basis of all diseases. So when we study the disease, this is how we understand in Ayurveda. This is a general sequence of study for all diseases. So the Ama that is formed accumulates in the body and then further weakens the Agni. And eventually the Ama begins to block the channel. And doshas become unstable. The Amas are joining together to develop this, and they damage dhatus which are already weakened, and that's the disease process. So this is the sequence formation of disease. So this is very important to understand. This is a very fundamental concept. First and foremost thing is that the dhatus are, and then the etiological factors, doshas, Agni leads, the weak Agni leads to formation of Ama, and that Ama becomes the basis. And then that Ama and the doshas together damage the dhatus and the disease is formed. So this is the principle behind the formation of disease, and therefore when we do assessment of the patient, we first try to understand how the disease is caused in the first place. So here is a summary chart of this process. Bad lifestyle, suppression of the natural urges, and all this. Beginning of that background, when there are factors of the doshas is called. So the imbalance of the dosha, they're beginning of, and because weakened Agni the Ama, the Ama accumulates, other stresses Agni, blocks, stabilizes the imbalance, and this is what we cut. So when we assess these, there are these three components that in Ayurveda give emphasis to. One is the Ama, what is the nature of Ama in the disease, and then what is the dosha involved, and what is the sthana in which the disease is manifested. So these are the three components that we need to consider this disease. So I hope much is clear. I see we have a couple participants. So is what I explained so far clear? Can we move forward? Okay, so we continue forward with our assessment of the disease assessment in understanding clinical assessment is the assessment of disease, and within the assessment of disease, assessment of ARMA is the first thing to be done. In all diseases, there is ARMA. So ARMA has to be assessed before the treatment. So depending on assessment of ARMA, what type of treatment is done. So in Ayurveda, treatments can be broadly classified as Lankhana or Brahmana. Brahmana, Lankhana means catabolic method treatment. And Brahmana means anic method treatment. And then in Ayurveda, we have Shodhana or Shamana, which means in Shodhana, we do cleansing procedures. In Shamana, we do regulation of the body functions. So these are categories, approaches to treatment. And in order to decide what line of treatment we have to choose, it's important for us to assess ARMA. And so the first step in clinical assessment is assessment. So his slide, in order to assess ARMA, we need to understand the classification of ARMA. So ARMA, which is metabolic biotics in the body, which form the base for can alpha means less in quantity. So when we start assessing ARMA, we need to get certain characteristics, identify whether the ARMA is present in large quantities or in less quantity. Madhya is moderate, mediocre number of quantity, and Bahu means in large quantity. So the quantitative assessment of ARMA becomes the next important step in assessing the disease. So we see whether it is less, moderate, or large quantity. And then we have to see whether it is, hidden or visible, mobile or immobile. So depending on what is this you can say qualitative assessment of ARMA. So we assess ARMA quantitatively, then qualitatively, and then you locate the ARMA, where is it present? So in our previous class, we did discuss about as I was mentioning, assessment of ARMA means three things: quantitative assessment, and then qualitative assessment, and then identifying the location. These are three steps which you can see in this chart. And so the location, so if you look at quantitative, it could be less, medium, or high. Qualitative can be visible, hidden, mobile, or immobile. And location can be in the koshta, which is the inner zone, which we discussed in our previous class. It can be the inner zone, in the central zone, or it can be in the outer zone of the disease pathway. So this is how we assess the ama very briefly, to say very briefly. And once this assessment is done, we can take a decision. So here we are showing the different ways in which we can assess the ama, qualitatively and quantitatively. We need not worry if we are not able to fully understand the slide in one go. It's not easy to understand it in one go. But you can keep this chart because this PowerPoint shared. So possibilities are shown, like the first one is quantity of ama in a hidden state, and it is located inside the dhat, and then you have to do snehana and sveda. So these are Sanskrit terms which you will be able to understand when you complete our lecture day. But these terms cannot be easily translated, so I prefer to keep them in Sanskrit. There are a few handful of terms which we need to understand and not translate. So some of these are the terms that are mentioned here, but I can just write down all the translations for your convenience. Alpa means little quantity. And Lina means hidden. Madhya means moderate quantity. Alina means clinically identified. And then we have Bahu, means large quantity. Jala means mobile. Nachala means immobile. So here, the second column indicates the three zones of the body. So dhatu here means it represents the innermost and the central pathway of the disease. The vital organs. The Srotas actually denotes the outer pathway of the disease. And the Koshta denotes the inner pathway of the disease. So these two columns are now translated. Then we have the treatment, Sneha, Sweda. Sneha means use of oil. And Sweda means meditation. And then you have ahara vihara, means ahara and vihara means diet and lifestyle. So this indicates what line of treatment you have to do based on your diagnosis. So you have located the ama, you've qualitatively assessed the ama, you've quantitatively assessed the ama, and then what should be done. So lekhana means to scrape and remove the ama with medicines. Pacha means to digest the ama. And then shodhana means to do cleansing therapies. So this is the approach to treatment. And sneha pana means internal administration tracks. So this is the chart that will enable us to decide what line of treatment is needed depending on the quality and the quantity and the location. So after the ama has been, then we have to assess the dosha. And we already discussed quite a lot about how dosha can be assessed. So the general line of treatment that we have to do is decided on the basis of the assessment of ama. We decide that we have to do shodhana or shamana or brahmana or lankhana. Let me repeat this in English. Depending on the ama, we decide whether we have to do a cleansing therapy or not, and whether we have to do nourishing therapy or teething therapy. But by assessment of ama alone, we cannot decide which are the exact herbs that need to be chosen to treat the disease. In order to decide what herbs are to be taken, we need to assess the DOSHAVIKALPA. So it's not possible to decide the specific herbs and formulations by just ama assessment. So we have to now understand the underlying dosha. So even by assessing ama, we can to some extent understand what dosha is involved, because when ama is very heavy, we understand that it is due to kapha. And when pitta is associated, it produces burning sensation and other symptoms. And this kind of ama is called as pitta. And when vata is associated, it causes flatulence and other disturbances related to vata. And so usually in many diseases where indigestion is very much I hope all of you can hear me. Okay. Yes. So we need to, after assessing ama, we need to understand the dosha that is involved, because without that we cannot decide what kind of herbs we must use. And so here we have to revise some of the concepts that we already discussed. That, you know, we discussed about the 63 plus types of dosha combinations that are possible. So I can see that Hussein is online. Do you remember the dosha vikalpas? The combination of the doshas which we discussed. So after assessing ama, so ama we assess, yes. So then, so quantity, quality, and location. So that is the first step in diagnosis. After that, dosha, in terms of their combinations. So many combinations are possible, and this slide just summarizes the thing broadly. And after the dosha vikalpa comes the treatments. So earlier we decided what line of treatment that we have to take. We cannot decide what exact substance we have to use unless we understand the dosha. So we decide we have to do pacification, or we have to do cleansing, or we have to do anabolic treatment or catabolic treatment. Now the question comes, what medicines or what methods we should actually follow to execute this treatment? And that we are able to decide once we do the DOSHAVIKALPA. So here you can see some of the major substances and materials that are used depending on our understanding of what is the combination of the doshas. So if it is Vata, you can use oil, and we can use Vasti. Vasti means enema. So enema is a treatment that is done for and then what is mentioned, and if you have to look at the herb, then for Vata we say there is a herb called Bala, which botanical name is Cider cordifolia. I don't know whether this is available in other parts of the world, so maybe we should identify a good substitute to use in countries outside India. So if it is Vata, we would choose oil as a basis for treatment, and then enema as a treatment procedure, and then Bala is one of the herbs that we might choose. So this is just an example of how the thought process moves as we make the diagnosis. If it is Pitta, then instead of oil, we use ghee. And instead of Vasti, we use do purgation. Virechana means purgation. And then as a herb, we would use sandal. It's very cooling. Now, if we find that the dosha is more of kapha, then we use honey in the treatment. And then there is vamana or emesis. We use emesis to remove the kapha. And then herb, we would choose a herb like pepper. Then, if the dosha assessment is vata pitta, if we find that the doshas that are involved, it's a combination of vata and pitta, then we use, instead of oil, ghee or honey, we use milk. And we use a treatment called milk vasti, milk-based, milk decoctions are made and enema is given. And then as a herb, we would use a herb called gokshura. Gokshura is Tribulus terrestris. It's a herb which has got an action on vata and pitta together, not on vata alone or pitta alone or kapha alone. So we can see here as to how, according to the assessment of the doshas, our strategy for the treatment is changed. So then if it is a combination of pitta vata, then our strategy changes. We start making medicines with goat's milk instead of any of the other core substances. So then we have milk enema, goat's milk we do the enema, and then grapes becomes a treatment. And grapes in Ayurveda, we use specially raisins, which is dried grapes. This is very good for pitta vata. And then we have kapha pitta. So So in Kapha Pitta, we use honey as well as bitter tasting herbs and with food. And we have to do both emesis and purgation. So these are very important concepts in Ayurvedic treatment because these charts can be very fundamental to use when we are in a clinic. So the Ama assessment and then the Dosha assessment and then the Sthana or the location. So this is like an algorithm or general principle that we can adopt. And in Kapha Pitta we use purging cassia, which is actually Cassia fistula. And this is the herb of choice. And if the dosha is Pitta Kapha, then we use bitter taste more, and again Virechana and Vamana, but the herbs would change. We would use coriander. And if the condition is, if we assess that the doshas are Vata and Kapha, and then we use hot water. And moist fermentation. Sweda means fermentation. We need to do fermentation. And then we use a herb called prickly solanum. This is Solanum santificata. And then if the condition is dominating Kapha and Vata, then we use salt and oil, and we use dry fermentation. So if it is Vata Kapha, we use wet fermentation, and Kapha Vata, we use dry fermentation. And as a herb, we use Haritaki, which is Terminalia chebula. So in this way, according to the Vikalpa doshas, depending on what type of dosha is dominating, we will decide a particular type of treatment. So this is a very fundamental principle in diagnosing diseases and treating them. So I hope up to here what we discussed is clear. So we have discussed yes. So we just to summarize, because there's so many topics coming up. What I discussed today so far is first is the assessment of disease. Second is the assessment of the patient. And third is the assessment of evolution of disease in stages. So treatment actually becomes specific to the stage of evolution of the disease. And now we are into assessment of disease, which includes three major components. One is assessment of Ama. Second is assessment of dosha. And third is assessment of dhatu, or the location or the site of manifestation of the disease. So we're going to look into the assessment of the heart. So, in all diseases there is Ama and there is dosha, but the manifestation of the disease actually changes depending on the location in which the disease gets manifests. So therefore, the actual differentiation of the disease happens depending on the site of its manifestation. So we will now look at the different sites in which the disease can manifest. So let's move forward to the next slide. So now we see that depending on the dhatus, Suppose we know there is ama and we know now what type of dosha it is. When we understand that specific dhatus are involved, then we have to choose specific herbs depending on the dhatu that is affected. So for example, if the rasa dhatu is involved, then we have to use this herb, which is terminalia chehum. Similarly, if Rakta Dhatu is affected, we change the herb, then it becomes Hemidas Vindicus. So, in this way, you can see that there's a very systematic, logical process in which the Ayurvedic physician decides what treatment is to be given to a particular patient. So, if the Mamsa Dhatu is affected, the medicine will change. It becomes Gugulu or Comifera Mukku. And if it is Medas Dhatu, then the medicine changes to Varuna. So this is how the treatment keeps changing in Ayurveda and becomes very specific to the particular stage of the disease. So for this reason, we cannot really say that there is a specific treatment for a particular disease, because we have to look at three things in Ayurveda: the disease, the patient, and the stage of the disease. Since this keeps changing, we need to customize our treatment for each patient. So again, as we move on to the next herb, is it coming to the Asti Dhatu? We have another herb called Citrusco triangularis. When the disease is based in Majja Dhatu, then we change Mucuna purines. When it goes to Shukra Dhatu, again the medicine is changed and it becomes Tribulus terrestris. Similarly, another treatment may also be specified based the organs that are actually involved in a particular disease. So we have for the brain Brahmi, for the eyes Triphala, for the ears garlic, for mouth berberis, for skin neem, for heart Arjuna, for lungs solanum, for the stomach buttermilk, for uterus Ashoka, for kidneys Punarnava is a herb which is called as Boravia diffusa. And then, for the liver, we have Pipalonum. And for the throat, there are the three pungents, which actually means, black pepper, and then dry ginger, and then long pepper. So these are the medicines that are used for the throat. So depending on the organ that is affected, we also change the whole treatment plan. So this is again a very important concept in Ayurveda of making the treatment specific to a particular organ. So we have for bladder, we have Kokshuda, for the nose, turmeric, and for sperm, Mirkuna. So in this way, you can see now how from ama to dosha to organ, to dhatu to organ, the treatment becomes more and more specific as we move forward. So we have to balance the, so we say that in Ayurveda, treatments do not So here you see that there are 5 things. We have to look at all these 5 at the same time. And then the treatment becomes balanced. So if your treatment focuses only on either one of these things, if you focus too much on ama, then it will cause side effects at other levels. So we need to do a treatment that will balance all these 5 things at the same time. And that is the secret to do a treatment without side effects. So we say that all medicines can potentially create side effects. So how does Ayurvedic treatment? Just by using a herb, you cannot say that Ayurvedic treatment can become free of side effects. It doesn't happen that way. We need to be able to actually balance all these elements, without which it would not be possible to make your treatment balanced and without any side effects. So this is the key. This is again a very important concept in making our treatment balanced and holistic. Even at a physical level, you have to at the same time consider the ama, we have to consider the srotas, we have to consider agni, we have to consider dosha, and we have to also consider the dhatu. So when all these things are balanced at the same time, then we understand that the treatment will not produce unnecessary side effects, and that the treatment will actually be balanced. So then we move on. The next point is, how do we create a balanced formulation? A balanced formulation will address all these 5 targets at the same time. So one medicine will work. That is why in Ayurveda we say we do not treat with single herbs, because single herbs cannot multi-target. So the crux of Ayurvedic treatment is multi-targeting, which means the medicines work on multiple targets at the same time. So a balanced formulation is that which multi-targets. There's a medicine working on ama, and another works on srotas, and another works on agni, and yet another on dosha, and still another on dhatu. And therefore, Ayurvedic medicines do not cause side effects. If it is formulated in this way, then we can be sure that the medicine will not cause side effects. So, medicine for chest congestion, for example, I want to give a simple herbal formulation in Ayurveda, which uses 3 herbs. That is Solanum xanthocarpum, ginger, dry ginger, and then guduchi. This plant is called as Tinospora cordifolia in Ayurveda. So these 3 herbs are used together to relieve congestion in the chest, and also with the fever associated with chest congestion. And we find that this formulation is very effective. It's very commonly used in Ayurvedic practice. So one of the herbs works on the srotas, ginger works on ama and agni, and guduchi or Tinospora cordifolia works on the dhatu and the tissues. On the dosha and the dhatu. In this way, this formulation actually becomes balanced. So this is again a very important principle that we learned today, because Ayurveda diagnosis means disease, patient, and stage of disease. And assessing disease means assessing ama, dosha, and the dhatu, or the location. And so according to the ama and the dosha, we decide the line of treatment and the specific herbs to be used. And then depending on the location, we finally decide what kind of balanced formulation is to be needed. And when we use it in that way, it produces the balanced effect on the body. So multi-targeting, again to repeat, is the basis of Ayurvedic treatment. And that multi-targeting is what makes Ayurvedic treatment more safe and more holistic. So I hope this point has been conveyed well. So we go on to the next thing. So this is a problem of balancing in the body. To be very, very careful of deciding what herbs to use. When we treat Vata, Kapha can increase. When we treat Kapha, Vata can increase. Also, Pitta can be affected. So when we treat Vata Kapha, then Pitta Kapha can increase. When we treat Vata can increase. When we treat Vata, Ama can increase. So in the body, we try to balance things. Something else can go out. So this is really the challenge in deciding the treatment. Decide a treatment where when we balance one, it does not cause imbalance the other. And that is the key to the success of Ayurvedic treatment. It's not just simply we think or we are giving, okay, this is a patient who has Vata problem, so we give a herb that is specific Vata, and you end up actually increasing Kapha. You specify increase. So this is when we start treating patients, we'll realize we have to treat Vata in such a way that only Vata is specified, but Kapha does not increase. Only when we are able to achieve that, we will succeed in getting a balanced treatment. When we do Shodhana, or when we cleansing, after immediately a cleansing procedure, treatment like Panchakarma, our digestive fire becomes extremely weak and Vata will increase. So bloodletting increases Vata and weak Dhatu, so it should not be done after a cleansing. Too much of fermentation can damage Rakta Dhatu and Pitta. And use of keep using oil. Abhyanga is oil. Massage is oil. And if you use too much of oil application, then what happens is that it can cause blockage of the Srotas. The tricky part of the Ayurvedic treatment. Understood that as we assess and diagnose the patient, we are confronted with mutual or opposing factors. So this much is one presentation today. See again, the very few people have joined for today's lecture, but amongst those who are present, I want to just get confirmed that the assessment we did today is well understood. Are there any questions, or can we move on to the next topic? Topic will deal with how to develop prescription results. So I want to turn to a patient. These are component of treat a patient effectively by counseling, then you do not need to do any other treatment. Counseling, if the patient becomes self-responsible for his illness, without that you cannot go to the other steps. So in Ayurveda, counseling is developed and what elements of their personality needs to be rectified to bring about your. So once counseling is done, the next important step. So that after counseling, the patient should now be willing, so that it's not the medicine that should go first, rather it's the counseling tips, then the lifestyle, and after the lifestyle is corrected, we have diet, because changing diet without changing style is of no use. And you cannot change the lifestyle of a patient without actually counseling. So that is the reason this is considered a sequence, that you have counseling, and after changing the lifestyle, you change diet, and then we decide an internal treatment has to be given to be administered. So then internal method. So the treatment work if it is not supported by counseling, lifestyle, and diet. So the internal medicine become only the fourth component of your prescription. And with the internal medications, we have the external treatments, which are the therapies in Ayurveda, which also includes the panchakarma and the cleansing procedures and other external applications. And if the internal and external treatments do not work, Ayurveda recommends surgery. So it's important to understand that surgery was also part of Ayurvedic treatment. But surgery option if the treatment did not succeed. And even when surgery does not succeed, then you have chemotherapy and thermocautery, which are some things like radiation or chemotherapy kind of a strong procedure. Ayurveda also in the other treatments fail. This is a framework for prescription in Ayurveda. Count lifestyle, diet, surgery, chemical thermal. And decisions in this order. If a treatment, if you can end with just then that way to treat. If you lifestyle can add that, and then if you think you need to change the diet, then you must do that, and then only the medicines. So up to external treatment, this first 5 components are usually the common ingredients for patient. And only if the disease can be handled or cured with these 5 components, then we have to go for surgery, chemotherapy, or therapy. So these are options. We need to actually use this as a for Ayurvedic prescription. In fact, one of the typical Ayurvedic texts called the Ashtanga Hridayam, the first section of this book explains the logic of prescription. So this introduction to how an Ayurvedic prescription is developed, and now we'll go into more details. So now what do we do when we do a counseling of a patient? So we need to understand what type of person it is. This is mental and physical constitution. So this is very fundamental. We do a counseling of a patient to understand, treatment that is suited to that individual's personality. So this is now we are coming to the first part of today's webinar. We discussed about how to assess a disease, and now we are coming to the which actually is the assessment of the patient. type of person is it, and what is their mental and physical constitution? Because mental and physical constitution influence certain behavioral patterns, means that it makes people behave in a particular manner. And so we need to understand and empathize with that individual and certain kinds of behavior difficult with a certain personality. And so we need to intelligently design the style of the treatments depending on mental and physical constitution. We have to understand what type of lifestyle. Do they have an unregulated lifestyle, or do they have a regulated lifestyle, and whether they're following a ascetic type of lifestyle? So it has to be changed depending on our assessment or her personality. That is the first prescription. This is how do we change the mind of the patient? Bring in awareness, give him an. So this is again a very important treatment, even for the same disease. On the personality of patient. This is what makes Ayurveda person-centered. It is not disease-centered. So once we do the counseling, then we understand how we can treat the patient and how we can bring about a lifestyle change. The second method is to prescribe lifestyle change, and basic elements in the health needs to be established in the patient before our can work. So even diet to be effective, it has to be decided basis lifestyle of the person. And so without changing lifestyle, diet and medicine will not work. So that is the reason why in the next stage we have to change the lifestyle of the person. And then we go to diet. After lifestyle has been modified, now the patient is comes through the counseling that critical changes in the lifestyle. Then we go to without the proper supportive lifestyle, diet is not effective, and all has to be chosen according to lifestyle. So we have to be very careful to enter a lifestyle which is suited for that person's physical and mental constitution. So in terms of dietary readiness, to ensure consumers completely fall. The patient should get digested, absorbed, and contribute to more armor while treatment is going on. The reason why diet becomes so crucial. And after these three steps are taken, counseling, and then lifestyle, then diet, then we move on. The next step, internal medications. It's a fundamental principle in Ayurveda. If you don't have a healthy lifestyle and diet, your medicines will not work. So Ayurvedic medicines depend on the support of a healthy lifestyle and diet to be able to work. So Ayurveda recommends an inside-out. We don't start by treating the body from the outside, from the inside. And so that is why we internal medicines have to at first, and after the internal medicines, we start the external treatments. So when the side is corrected, then external treatments are administered. Treatments are not effective, the body is not prepared with the internal medicines first. So this is the connection between external and internal treatment. is a choice only if internal medicine and external fails. So this is a very important point to remember and appreciate, that Ayurveda is against surgery. Ayurveda accepts all methods of treatment. And so surgery also has the scheme of overall approach to treatment. Surgery comes in only at a particular stage. And so only if internal medicine and external treatment fails, surgery is an option. It's rarely the first line of treatment. So even bloodletting is considered medical treatment fails. But in some diseases, maybe primary surgical, then we have to go for surgical. Then we have next treatment called, yes, it does. So when we went in Ayurveda, because we have a point in cases, it's advised treatment with the channels need to clear it, and the digestion needs to be enhanced, Agni needs to be improved before you do Abhyanga. This is a common mistake that people do when they come for Ayurvedic treatment. They start straight away with a massage, oil massage, and this is not advisable. No, Abhyanga can release toxins directly. Take some first, make your Agni clear, and then, make your channels a little bit open. Then you can. Very rarely, in some diseases, you can go for Abhyanga directly. When there is a large accumulation of doshas, and you are going to straight away do a complete cleansing. When you are going to cleansing, then you can do Abhyanga to bring all the doshas into the kosha. So if you start with Abhyanga, then you have to do a major thing also immediately. So unless you are going to treatment, generally speaking, we say oil should not be applied outside unless some internal stability of the cells are achieved. So I hope that point is clear. So you can see this is the sequence mentioned in the text: internal and then external, and then we have thermal cautery, which is the last method. It is resorted to when caustic cautery fails to give results. This may not be feasible in our patient. It leads to damage, a partial damage of dhatu. Done when there is no other way to save life. You have to damage a part to save the whole. So in such a condition, we do this thermal cautery. So this is the prescription in a brief. So you can see Ayurveda contains gentle to even very fierce treatments. Ayurvedic treatment is complete. It is not against any methods of treatment. It is comprehensive. It's herbal, mineral, animal, cleansing, regulating, anabolic, catabolic, surgical, thermocautery, all these treatments, diet, lifestyle, all of them together make up Ayurvedic treatment. So what Ayurveda says is that bringing them together in the right sequence and in the right balance is actually the skill of the physician. So if you overemphasize any of these methods, and this is what happens in modern medical treatment today, there is sometimes overemphasis on surgery or overemphasis on medications or overemphasis on diet or complete negligence of diet or negligent lifestyle. Just overemphasizing any of these facts, that is not going to help. So according to the disease, according to the individual, according to the stage of the disease, these 8 elements of the prescription needs to be balanced and given the right stage. And when we do that, then we get a very optimal result and response. So we come to this important point that Ayurvedic treatment is it's a logic. It is not a substance. It is not a procedure. Ayurvedic treatment. Are they herbs? Definitely not. Single herbs are dangerous. Why are single herbs dangerous? Because single herbs cannot be multi-targeting. The success of it is a multi-target. You are targeting multiple elements of the disease at the same time. So our relation is Ayurvedic. No, we cannot say just for Ayurvedic formulation. So what is Ayurveda? What does Ayurvedic treatment? Is it diet treatment? What is it that defines Ayurvedic treatment? Is that bring all these things together? What is the logic for balanced lifestyle, herbs, and all things together? Understand Ayurvedic treatment means to understand logic. Okay, I'm going to do this lifestyle, personality, and the disease, assessing the dosha, the dhatu, and then the stage of the disease. That is the logic behind Ayurveda. So it is not based on the concept of one medicine for disease. The treatment protocol becomes individualized patient. The treatment. So this is a very, very important point. So we may also continue this even after we'll have a break. So before we break, I want that there are 3 pieces of the Ayurvedic algorithm. So these are technical terms. One is iteration, the second incursion, and the third, which means sometimes in Veda we have to keep repeating a treatment until the result is obtained. So we may repeat the Vasti for 15 days, or in some case 30 days, until the desired result is achieved. Keep repeating it till you see the result. Which means the effect of Vasti may depend on the medicine which you give before and the treatment which you do after. So Vasti itself gives an effect, but its effect would be determined by what you do after. So we cannot say in Ayurveda one thing works. It's all these things working together. And then finally, reflection. The physician has to be very creative. The treatment may have to be modified depending on the response. So by repeating the treatments in a certain pattern and by relating it correctly to other treatments and by adapting in response to the patient in accordance with the response from the patient. By doing all this, we are able to balance the treatment and bring about the holistic effect. So we discussed a little bit of a difficult concept of how Ayurveda developed this algorithm for treatment. And these steps, repeating it intervention till the desired result is obtained, and then linking up different components of the treatment together, and then adapting the treatment according to the response from the patient. So here are some examples. The first is called hydration. So in skin diseases, purification therapy has to be repeated for months. The desired endpoints are achieved. And nourishment therapy is administered. So in India, in our for years before the complete concept of recursion, in which, for example, in a disease like rheumatoid arthritis, diverse interventions are administered, bloodletting, purgation, and each intervention is dependent on the other to produce the desired effect. So, in the proper sequence, in the proper dose. So that is what is meant by recursion. In some patients, it will need to be 3 days, while it may take 7 days in some others, and some others up to, depending on how they respond. So Ayurveda says that each medication that is slow, the action of the medicine can be seen within 24 hours. So this is the general principle. And how? And it does not again mean that the disease will be good if you respond. Okay. Yes. So now we continue, and as I was mentioning, Ayurveda uses combination of herbs and not single drugs. So it's all important to decide in what we are administering. Should be a herbal powder, or it should be a medicated wine, or medicated ghee. So depending on the condition. So there's a big difference if you give medicine decoction, or as a herbal powder, or as wine, or as medicated ghee. So this is another challenge. So to complete the Ayurvedic algorithm, the choice of form is also important. So how the formulation is made? So as we said, Agni, Dhatu, and also look at all these conditions, and then we make the complete formula. First stage of a disease, and in a stage only after the ama has well, we give fats and oils. And in stage rasayana, we give a lekhi or a link, just like a medicated jam. So generally, we decoction in the first stage, ghee in the second stage, medicated jam, or what you call as linked in the third stage. All other dosage forms and powders, and so in the West, usually I find the herbs are administered as powders, and that giving herbs as just powders can have side effects. So powders are to be used as a supplement to decoction teas and medicated jams. So this is one reason why treatment done outside India, the way Ayurveda is practiced, may lead to even problems. We are hearing a lot of reports about side effects, and in the herbs are used in other countries. Reason is Ayurvedic medicines are used as single and almost always as powders. So these are the reasons why I treatment, because I've done West. This is not fully on the Ayurvedic of drug dosage form. Now, the other dosage forms used commonly in Ayurveda, a pill is used in medicine, the mind focus, and the herbal dominance of kapha. Wine is when we want the medicine in the body. Decoction is used when there is a dominant of and vata, and ghee when there is a dominance of vata, and is used when vata. So we can see these forms are also based on underlying. We have to be very careful in seeing when. So pills are usually given a lot of options. Others are mixed with liquids, also given out, and decoction that you herbs and milk and then administer it, ghee and then oil. So all these dosage forms are very specific to the patient of the disease or the patient. As a picture shows the richness of the pharmaceutical dosage form. Later on, we'll be having the pharmaceutical dosage forms as a separate topic of our webinar. But it's just an introduction. So you can water generated acts, fatty extracts, fermented extracts, and also the extracts. We have decoction, hot infusions, cold infusions, fresh juice, and then what we call plasmas of Sindura, the resuscitations, extract, medicated oil, fermented extracts, which are medicated wines, and the powders of the pill. These are some of the dosage forms. There are even though you can see that the pharmaceutical processes in Ayurveda are diverse. These are the main therapeutic procedures. So we looked at these are the internal medications, and then the external therapies includes therapeutic vomiting, which is actually internal, but the only thing is medicine is intended to waste outside, and it doesn't really work directly inside of the body. We have purgation, and then we have the decoction enema, the oil enema. For these five procedures together make up what we call as panchakarma. We learn the steps in that. We have to first, when disease, assess the quantity, we have to do a quantitative assessment, and then quality, the quality assessment. And once this assessment is considered, whether it is a single dosha, combination of all the history, vata, pitta, vata, kapha, vata. Or the location, and there we to ask questions like which diet, which shrotas is affected, which organ is affected, whether a marma or a white organ is involved. This again is we are coming back to all the three parameters to assess before we decide a treatment. Actually, I am of broadband internet, and it's working. I don't know why The browser is being fast for other websites. If you want, I can just log in. We will continue. This about include a section on the symptomatic treatment. Again, that you look at the dosha and the sthana or motion before we decide the. And so that's in the remaining 1 hour. Look at 3 case studies. The 3 interesting. I want to demonstrate. What I want to discuss through 3 case studies is that, you know, I mentioned where the treatment begins first and then. So it's an important concept of the dosha to be back to the inner zone. The outer zone for the perspective has to be removed. Skin diseases to show how effective this is. When we bring the doshas of the body back into, we remove from the alimentary tract, then the disease better. Diseases, if you apply treatment, press the doshas, or do external applications, these may disappear. So I want some difficult skin diseases. The reason I have chosen skin diseases is that we can see the connection between the outer and the inner zones when we treat skin diseases, and do internal cleansing. And so we will see in these cases how by applying treatments we bring the doshas to the koshta and then we remove them using procedures, and how gradually there is dramatic improvement, no further recurrence of the disease. So here I want to discuss about AMA in the management of a skin disease. It's a case report. So there is a female came to our clinic, a 32-year-old female with blackish pigmented skin lesions all over the body, with itching and dryness. And for 1 year, she initially tried internal and external medications, an allopathic system of medicine, but there was no improvement. And her lesions actually aggravated. She visited our hospital and started Ayurvedic medications. She came 25 times and continued the treatment for 382 days before she was, and actually she spent many years with allopathic to get very good relief. So can you see the picture? You can see the lesions in the face, and these are that you can see eruptions, and here you can see eruptions on the head, a very severe itching. The diagnosis was mixed. I'm not sure exactly what it was. So, because a lot of the disease got addressed with allopathic medication, and you can see some of the picture. You can see these eruptions. And so these are the presentations before came after some years treatment where the lesions would disappear and then come back again, would disappear and come back again, and then it became clear that she wanted to try some alternative. The patient was a allopathic physician, diagnosis of lichen planus. There was blackish red pigmented lesion, light shades over the body. Patient had severe itching and severe sensation. Hence, already understand. Can you guess what dosha is? She had itching and burning. Can you guess her? Itching is due to kapha, and burning is due to pitta. So you can see here the influence of kapha and pitta. Already we can easily understand. And kapha and pitta and allopathic diagnosis that we consider as skin disease. In allopathy, it was lichen planus. It's a provisional diagnosis form. So you can see the patient had severe body heat, which is again a symptom, and then severe itching, which is a sign of kapha, and then severe. And if you look at the progress of the patient's, while she was taking allopathy initially, there were symptomatic lesions spread badly afterwards and affected the whole body. So that is when she came for Ayurvedic treatment. Now our goal here is to actually do some of the ama, bringing the ama from the various parts of the body back in the alimentary tract. And we target kapha and pitta. So some of the medicines which I am going to mention to you, that's not the point because we have not studied about pharmacology and pharmaceuticals. So you're not expected to know the names of the medicines. You can just focus on this concept, cooking and clearing the ama from the body, which you can actually see as an experience here. So the strength of Ayurveda here is that ability to bring the doshas or the ama and remove it from the body, whereas in allopathic medicine, they were going suppressing it. So please let us look at the classification of ama again, whether the ama is alina, whether it's more mobile, whether it's in large quantity, moderate quantity, it's moving the inner zone to the outer zone, whether it is kapha, pitta or vata. So these were, I'm not repeating all this because we have been discussing this from the beginning of the class. So we looked at the ama and assessed it. So the patient did not show, although the lesions were spread all over the body, signs of Bahu. In Bahu ama, the can be extremely severe and will present an acute condition. So therefore, we did VIKRI measure. Administered through Panchakarma. We don't have to always. So the patient was not in a position to get admitted in the hospital. So we also the reason why it took longer. It took nearly a year for the complete condition clear. If the patient was willing to get it and undergo Panchakarma, then much faster response. So here we assess the condition as Madhya ama, moderate ama, and patient constipation, very severe constipation, which means that the doshas were not actually into the alimentary tract. So we decided to do a scraping, lekana treatment, digesting, and shodhana treatment, which would then be followed by or grooming. was the treatment plan. Went ahead and did these treat shows that were medicines. So what's important to understand is that we did mild cleansing. Pachana means cooking and scraping. So the ama and the doshas in the body and scraped and brought back to the abdominal cavity to a first stage internal medication. So here we did not give much emphasis on it, although there was only very limited external medications. All treatment were targeted. The names of the medicine here you not be familiar with, but that's perfectly all right. It will some other classes for you to get familiarized with the terminologies of the plants and the ingredients of medicines. So two methods of treatment. In the first phase we gave cleansing treatments internally, we gave regulatory treatments. So what was very interesting that after the first stage of treatment, the kapha gets removed. So when the kapha vata began to increase. So after the first phase of treatment, we found that the patient became extremely hot. The patient complained of extreme body heats. And so that is why we had to face, we had to target and specify. I was mentioning this is a very important element of Ayurvedic treatment. That when you treat one, the other dosha can get imbalanced. And then you have to give attention to the other dosha before we come back to the main dosha that we had started. So in the middle of the treatment, the patient became extremely hot. We did some pitta treatments and then the heat was controlled. The patient became better. And then we again did a cleansing treatment. So as I was mentioning, we may have to treatment several times. Just one cleansing treatment was not sufficient to bring about significant changes. So we had to repeat them again. And the patient could not tolerate certain medications, so we changed it. These are also practical difficulties that we may encounter when we treat. And after the second round of cleansing procedures, we begin now to nourishment. Again, balancing the doshas and nourishment, and so the medicine. See, this is the treatment plan. Cleansing in the first stage, and then balancing the dosha pitta, which became aggravated. Then again going for a round of cleansing, and then coming back to specifying the doshas, doing some strengthening of the tissues. So this was for a long period of time. And there was also some medication. So once the patient began to get purified through the medicine, then we started giving external medicine. Some oils, coconut oil is usually used for skin disease. It's used for and ginger oil for water. So if there is a neurology, then we will use oil, or otherwise called as sesame oil. But if the skin is involved, then invariably we use coconut oil. So we used oil. These are various names of herbs. And we tried to use some herbal powders externally. Did not respond well. So we had to stop this. So in this way, you can see that we did a series of internal and external treatments, both cleansing, regulatory, as well as alcoholic. And as a result of all these treatments, look at what happened to the patient. So, accordingly, when also advised, the patient had to stop eating curds, yogurt, fish, oily food, and vegetables like brinjal, and there was restriction to use salt, pungent, and sour foods. So she was on a dietary which. So then we found that after a span of 82 days, the patient had reported remarkable improvement. In fact, the changes began to be observed even much before. So even after 1 month of treatment, new lesions had stopped. So as the proceeded, we could see that in the first stage there was a predominance of kapha symptoms. Then the pitta symptoms increased, and when both kapha and pitta got reduced, then vata increased. So this is the important way to keep in treatment, that may treat one dosha, but another dosha may get imbalanced. So in the first stage, we treated kapha, then pitta got imbalanced. When we pitta, and then again, then vata got. So we had to handle that. So when the patient last reported for consultation, there were only very light marks of the earlier lesion. Symptoms had completely subsided, and the skin had become very smooth and soft. So you can see now the patient has been free of any disease for the past few years. So the condition which was treated with allopathic medications and continuous recurrence, after Ayurveda, the patient got control. So you see the various stages of treatment. Here you see how it was before, and in a certain stage of disease, how the lesions became less visible. Here you can see how strong it was, and here, it's almost not visible at all. Here you can see the hands. Here you can see eruptions, and here it's fully normal. See here the different visible, and so the patient got completely cured with 1 full year of careful treatment, and actually within 3 months. So the rest of the treatment was actually done to prevent the recurrence of the disease. So this is a demonstration of how the Ayurvedic. So this is explaining to us how the simple and logical treatment protocol based on assessment of ama, dosha, and stage of the disease can be very effective in many diseases which are resistant to modern treatment in a comparatively short period of time. So ama was in the madhya, or moderate but it was sticking to the dhatus, and it became on provocation, and so we did scraping, digesting, cleansing, and then after all this cleansing was over, we strengthened the dhatus inside. So the allopathic treatment, both internal and external, was effective in suppressing the lesions. This means that the allopathic medicine was only able to suppress the arm inside. And so when there was a provocation, the arm would come out again. So instead of moving the arm out from the body, allopathic treatment was only suppressing it. And so that is the reason why the disc kept manifesting again and again. And it could be controlled and completely cured only did the Ayurveda treatment of cooking and removing the arm. So this skin disease is one of the cases which there are two more such cases, demonstration cases. The next one you can see is another, it's a psoriasis, the other. So the Ayurvedic approach was set, and I hope to demonstrate and convey the importance of doshas and removing it to achieve a complete cure. So we will go next case now. So here is the woman. Okay, so this is another case of a lady who had a skin problem. It started with diet and then it spreads to other parts of the body, to seafoods like prawn, crab, and in the diet she likes to take more. So you can see the diseases, how factors are actually, pay for the creation of a skin disease. She doesn't have a very healthy diet. She developed some rashes in the body and she was diagnosed to have optic neuritis, and she underwent some steroid treatment. And then in about 3 to 4 years after taking allopathic treatment for her skin problems, she started lesions and the areas got painful. So she got others also when she took treatment. She got actually steroid-induced diabetes, and there was fluctuation in the T4 value because of the allopathic treatments. This stage that she came for Ayurvedic treatment. You can see that allopathic treatment actually not only gave only temporary relief, but the allopathic also very severe side effects. So steroid-induced diabetes and fluctuating T4 value. Here you can see of the patient. It's her hands, her leg, of her body and stomach. She had these lesions which were becoming bigger, and these are typical psoriatic lesions. So next, we can ask the what are the main toxins, what are the causes, what is the pathogenesis. So by looking at the lesions, we can make an assessment of the doshas. You can see pinkish, whitish discoloration and then there's itching and redness, and she developed ulcers and thyroid drops. So we can see the month-by-month progress of her disease. She gets, in 2015, more painful. The skin rashes become more spread. In March 2015, and she was found to have T4 level aberrations and some medications. And we started treatment in March. By June, we found that the itching and thickness getting reduced. Had less white flakes and tiredness, and lesions, the itching and thickness, and then by July again we begin to see that very good improvement in the itching and thickness of the skin. What's very interesting is that the thyroid was controlled with Ayurvedic, but diabetes also improved with thyroid treatment. She began to develop joint pain. So we can say this was a case of not just psoriasis, but psoriatic arthritis, which means that the patient has not lesions, but also involvement of the joints. So in January 2000, the skin rashes had almost disappeared and the pain and swelling are under. Now, even better, does not have any serious and she's recovering well. So here again, you can see that the patient was completely normal, and I'll show more detail. So here are some of the blood reports. You can see thyroid levels had increased, and there will be ranges. And you can see here that happened over a period of time. This is how her came in progress, and now you can see it's completely clean. And if you look at her legs, you can see June to January having badly progresses, patients are completely gone. So it's the same method of treatment that I mentioned in the previous case, the cleansing of the body. And you can look at the linear. The other leg is even more severe issues, and this is gradually. If you look at the thickness of her leg, you can see in the middle of the treatment she loses a little bit of weight. In between she gains, and towards the end I just recover some weight. So this is because alternating cleansing and the nourishing therapies, the patient's response begins to vary. So are these pictures clear? Treatment is a little lengthy. So in both these cases, the duration was longer because the patient did not want to was not willing to in the hospital. If the patient was admitted and we could do 1 month of intense cleansing therapies, definitely the process would have been much faster. So we had to do treatment, and with many of these cleansing procedures again and again. And she also had other problems like diabetes and thyroid. So these all needed to be treated, and then developed joint problems, which also needed addressed separately. So it's about a period of 1 year. So it's quite a challenge for the patient to be following all the diet and other restrictions for a period of 1 year. And so, yes, we do need to have a proper mindset. And she had to stop many of the foods that she really loved. And that can be quite challenging. And yes, but eventually, because she got the changes on her back as it progresses, you can see in June to January. So it's in a piece, it's tapering down. It's not ups and downs. It's not that the disease gets then comes back again. It's progressively, it's suppressed, comes in, suppressed, comes up again. Here, so we can see here in her stomach, it was not severe, but towards the end that had also completely disappeared. Because of the problems in photography, their slide will disappear. So you can nail had problems which got resolved after the treatment. Here the nail is affected, and after the so we will now read. So now we will talk about the treatment start. This is the questions that, I hope you understand what we mean by Shodhana. Shodhana actually means cleansing her. Was having a light. So she stands strong, in the street. So we cannot rest, we cannot do, so some internal cleansing has now. Internal cleansing we do with some simple, so here are the medicines that are given. So this slide you may not be able to understand because this uses many Sanskrit terms of the medications, but I just want to show how the treatment is modified in different stages. As you can see from this chart, depending on the response of the patient, some medications are given right beginning to the end, some medicines are stopped, new medicines are introduced, and some medicines are continued at the end part of the treatment. So this is what I meant by the algorithm. So some treatments are repeated, you can see some treatments are repeated, do into this. So this what is which we used, started the exterminations. The street trades the in-out approach of Ayurveda. That we have to first come inside and then clean the outside. If we first work from the outside, then not solved from the inside. So actually, there is yes. So we have presentation. One more case, interesting, and it's which is also a very simple. And in this case, so in the first two cases, we were able to manage with just the conservative treatment. But this case was too severe that we really had to panchakarma. So let's have a look at this treatment. So I hope from these discussions, it's becoming very clear. You appreciate the idea of the Ayurvedic concept of cleansing the body, bringing the doshas back to the kosha and removing them. Yes. So here is this case, a 60-year-old man presents of widespread reddish white patches of scaling skin that peels off. He was really sick. He was severe itching, skin plaques, thinning of skin, and the areas with cracked skin were extremely painful. Lesions were visible all, including the neck and the scalp, and the disease for more than 15 years. So the person was suffering from psoriasis for more than 15 years. Very severe. And allopathic treatment did not give relief. So when he came, he could not even move his neck or head or other parts of the body because the skin had been and it was cracked, painful. And you can see the condition when he came in 2018. So he's been for years now, and he's fairly almost normal. So you can see the severity of the skin lesions. This is unlike the first two cases. So, okay, some questions. What would be the Ayurvedic diagnosis? Which doshas can you recognize? What is a biomedical diagnosis? And can you recognize? You can see here he had really itching and cracking of skin. You can see there is dominant vata, and the first case was kapha and pitta. And so also the second case had more of kapha, pitta and kapha. In this third case, it is a case of vata and kapha. So in skin diseases, the dominance of the doshas can vary from patient to patient. So this is kapha and vata, and this is the answers. So how do we assess the severity of this disease? Have you heard of the PASI score? So this is the psoriasis area severity index. There is a tool at which we can assess the severity of the psoriasis. So the score ranges from 0 to 72, with 72 being the maximum severity. And if you get an improvement of 50% in the PASI score, then we say that it's a meaningful improvement. So we try to do the PASI score assessment in this case. And this is how the PASI score is done. You see here the PASI score. And the PASI score of this patient was 64.9, which means out of 72, it was 64.9, which means really very severe condition, severe disease. 64, let me go, 64.9. So here comes the question, what could be the cause for the disease? Is it lifestyle, is it diet, or is it psychological disposition? The answer, what we identified was that it was a stressful lifestyle. He used to take incompatible foods that are mutually incompatible, like fish and milk and sour fruits, curse in the hot season, and so on and so forth. So these were actually the causes for this. So which pathway is affected? These are the other questions that we need to ask. And so the answers are that ama accumulates in the system due to habitual intake of incompatible food, and there's weakness of digestive fire, and due to the stressful lifestyle, the ama circulates in the body and it's not eliminated from the coastal alimentary tract, moves into the shaka, and the body attempts to throw it out through the skin. And actually, skin disease reveals failed attempt of the body to remove doshas through the skin. So that is what causes the autoimmune response. So the body is trying to act and remove the ama from the skin. So we can see here the causes and triggers of psoriasis. Explains that psoriasis is caused by composition of genetic predisposition and trigger, and is considered to be an important psoriasis. Skin injury, medications, all these can work as triggers. And it has been observed that infection, especially throat infection, can also trigger psoriasis. So what will be the line of treatment? So again, we decided to first go to the inside-out approach in this patient. So the external medicines were not given much importance, and we did not immediately do Panchakarma because we wanted first the doshas to come into the alimentary tract before we remove it. So we started the internal treatments, and this patient had also tried other Ayurvedic treatments, which also did not help. So, in fact, the patient had stopped all allopathic treatment, switched to Ayurveda, which was helpful for a little while, but did not. So, what other Ayurvedic physicians did not do was complete cleansing of the body. So, again, drastic cleansing, panchakarma or mild cleansing can be done. And what can we try here? So what we did was we gave a series of internal medications, which again, please don't worry, you may not understand these things because when we study the webinar for pharmaceuticals and pharmacology, we will get more familiar with the medications. But here is a time to just understand the principles that we were trying to cook and remove the ama by bringing all the ama into the koshta and then eliminating it from there. So the external medicines were slowly introduced, and these were actually coconut oil based, and sometimes we used also ghee, but not ghee oil. Applications were also put outside. And you can see after 4 months of treatment, you can compare it with the first slide, most of the scales had gone. So you can see just by internal treatment, by cooking and removing the ama, the effect is seen on the skin. You can see here the patient is definitely not normal, but if you look at the previous slide, the older slide, where you see in the beginning, this is medicine. So compared to what you see here, you can see after 15 years, for the first time, after 4 months of treatment, the condition begins to change. Just a moment, I have to wait for a slide to display. So after months of treatment, the patient was much better, and you can see that the PASI score had 20.7. So I hope you remember. Yes. Sorry, slide is not moving so smoothly. Yes, so this is the change after 4 months, and the score, PASI score, changed from 64.9 to 20 points. So which means there was an improvement of more than 50%. So it was 20.7 after 4 months of treatment. So the lesions did not disappear completely, and there was itching and periodic flare-ups. So then finally we decided that we will do a complete panchama on this patient. And so can you say what type of cleansing treatment will we plan? Purgation or emesis? In other words, will you choose Virechana or Vamana? Give a forgive or induce Vamana? So because kapha is jointing, we decided to, you can see what the patient posted for Vamana, and it's a cleansing for kapha. And before doing the Vamana, we administer medicated for 7 days. And we went up to 350 ml. One dose, 3 administered, started from 50 ml, went up to 10 ml, and then he was given fermentation and then subjected to Vamana. So you can see here the patient is undergoing the Vamana treatment. And he's getting cleansed. Already you can see his legs are much better after this Nehavana. And after Vana, we also did Virechana, which means through purgation. So within 10 days of the purgation was also done. And after these procedures, the skin began to peel off, finding that the skin of the patient began to rise. And the skin became very thin at this stage and became cracking. And so he began to get what we call as baby skin. His old skin began to away, and gradually it was formed. So there was a complete recycling of the skin. And so again, internal medications were given for balancing the doshas and adjusting the remaining medicated them a higher dose ml per day to heal and strengthen the skin, and some other medicines were also given. And then external meds were continued. So after admission in our hospital, he left the hospital and continued these treatments for some. And then if asked what is the condition of the patient, score has now further reduced to 6.4. And this is incredible, more than 75% improvement. So from 64.9 to 27 to 6.4. So the patient is almost normal. There is only mild itching, but in most of the areas of the body, the skin is normalized. So what we could achieve within about 8 months could not be achieved with 50 years of treatment. So 1 years of treatment could not achieve well-planned Ayurvedic treatment of 8 months could achieve. So that's the importance of the algorithm, of the logic. The logic is more important. So it's not just the medicines. If you give the medicines in the wrong way, so even after years you will not get the treatment. Many of the medicines were actually tried earlier. But what was not done earlier was to bring all these elements together. The cleansing, the diet, the sequence of the treatments, the importance to the internal before the external. And when all these things were aligned correctly, then the results were much faster and much quicker. So I wanted to use these cases to actually demonstrate the importance of the treatment logic in Ayurveda. And skin disease, it's very easy to demonstrate the internal and the external, the movement of the doshas from outside to inside. In our future webinars, I will also show some other case studies related to other systems of the body. But this three skin diseases I wanted to show how consistently we can get these results. So here was the 4 at the end, which was 6.4, and now you can see the patient is almost normal. So you can compare this with how he looked in the beginning. He couldn't move his neck. His neck was completely with fissures. So from that condition, now skin on his leg is almost completely normal. You go back and you can see how it was at the beginning of treatments. So here, there are just some steps, but his skin is getting. So the next option is Rasayana. We need to strengthen these tissues. So Rasayana can give tissues and prevent for only after the cleansing has completely been done. So now we are started in a Rasayana that's doing quite well. So let's go back quickly and see. Please have a look at the skin here and how it is and how it was beginning here. So from this condition, the patient came to a stage where it's reached completely, and that in a span of Ayurvedic and the logic of Ayurvedic treatment. That we end on. And wish you a good day or evening or morning, wherever you are.